Book 1, Chapter 13 of The Adventures of Gil Blas of Santillana by Alain René Le Sage, translated by Tobias Smollett. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Book 1, Chapter 13, The Lucky Means by which Gil Blas escaped from prison and his travels afterwards. While I passed the hours in tickling my fancy with my own gay thoughts, my adventures word for word, as I had set my hand to them, were current about the town. The people wanted to make a show of me. One after another there they came, peeping in at a little window of my prison, not too capacious of daylight, and when they had looked about them, off they went. This raree show was a novelty. Since my commitment there had not been a living creature at that window, which looked into a court where silence and horror kept guard. This gave me to understand that I was become the town talk, and I knew not whether to divine good or evil from the omen. One of my first visitors was the little chorister of Mondognedo, who had a fellow feeling with me for the rack, and an equally light pair of heels. I knew him at once, and he had no qualms about acknowledging me as an acquaintance. We exchanged a kind greeting, then compared notes since our separation. I was obliged to relate my adventures in due form and order. The chorister, on his part, told me what had happened in the inn at Cacabellos, between the muleteer and the bride, after we had taken to our heels in a panic. Then, with a friendly assurance at parting, he promised to leave no stone unturned for my release. His companions, of mere curiosity, testified their pity for my misfortune, assuring me that they would lend a helping hand to the little chorister, and do their utmost to procure my freedom. They were no worse than their word. The corregidor was applied to in my favour, who, no longer doubtful of my innocence, above all when he had heard the chorister's story, came 3 weeks afterwards into my cell. Gil Blas, said he, I never stand shilly-shally. Begone, you are free. You may take yourself off whenever you please. But tell me, if you were carried to the forest, could you not discover the subterraneous retreat? No, sir, replied I. As I only entered in the night, and made my escape before daybreak, it would be impossible to fix upon the spot. Thereupon the magistrate withdrew, assuring me that the gaoler should be ordered to give me free egress. In fact, the very next moment the turnkey came into my dungeon, followed by one of his outriding establishment, with a bundle of clothes under his arm. They both of them stripped me with the utmost solemnity, and without uttering a single syllable, of my doublet and breeches, which had the honour to be made of a bettermost cloth almost new. Then, having rigged me in an old frock, they shoved me out of their hospitable mansion by the shoulders. The taking I was in to see myself so ill-equipped acted as a cooler to the usual transport of prisoners at recovering their liberty. I was tempted to escape from the town without delay, that I might withdraw from the gaze of the people, whose prying eyes I could not encounter but with pain. My gratitude, however, got the better of my diffidence. I went to thank the little chorister, to whom I was so much obliged. He could not help chuckling when he saw me. That is your trim, is it? Said he. As far as I see, you cannot complain that your case has not been sifted to the bottom. I have nothing to say against the laws of my country, replied I. They are as just as need be. I only wish their officers would take after them. They might have spared me my suit of clothes. I have paid for them over and over again. I am quite of your mind, rejoined he, but they would tell you that these are little formalities of old standing, which cannot be dispensed with. What, you are foolish enough to suppose, for instance, that your horse has been restored to its right owner? Not a word of it, if you please. The beast is at this present in the stables of the register, where it has been impounded as a witness to be brought into court. If the poor gentleman comes off with the crupper, he will be so much in pocket. But let us change the subject. What is your plan? What do you mean to do with yourself? I have an inclination, said I, to take the road for Burgos. I may light on my rescued lady, she will give me a little ready cash. I shall then buy a new short cassock, and betake myself to Salamanca, where I shall see what I can make of my Latin. All my trouble is how to get to Burgos. One must live on the road. I understand you, replied he. Take my purse. It is rather thinly lined, to be sure, but you know a chorister's dividends are not like a bishop's. At the same time he drew it from his pouch, and inserted it between my hands with so good a grace that I could not do otherwise than accept it for want of a better. I thanked him as though he had made me a present of a gold mine, and tendered him 1,000 promises of recompense to be duly honoured and punctually paid at doomsday. With this I left him, and skulked out of the town, not paying my respects to my other benefactors, but giving them 1,000 blessings from my heart. The little chorister had reason for speaking modestly of his purse. It was not orthodox. By good luck I had been used for these 2 months to a very slender diet, and had still a little small change left when I reached Ponte de Mula, not far from Burgos. I halted there to inquire after Donna Mencia. The hostess of the inn I put up at was a little withered, spiteful, emaciated bit of mortality. I saw at a glance by the mouths she made at me aside that my frock did not hit her fancy, and I thought it a proof of her taste. So I sat myself down at a table, ate bread and cheese, and drank a few glasses of execrable wine, such as innkeepers technically call cassacoquin. During this meal, which was of a piece with the outward appearance of the guest, I did my utmost to come to closer quarters with my landlady. Did she know the Marquis de la Guardia? Was his castle far out of town? Above all, what was become of my lady Marchioness? You ask many questions in a breath, replied she, bridling with disdain. But I got out of her, though by hard pumping, that Don Ambrosio's castle was but a short league from Ponte de Mula. After I had done eating and drinking, as it was night, I thought it natural to go to bed, and asked for my room. A room for you? Shrieked my landlady, darting at me a glance of contempt and pride. I have no rooms for fellows who make their supper on a bit of cheese. All my beds are bespoke. There are people of fashion expected, and our accommodations are all kept for them. But I will not be unchristian. You may lie in my barn. I suppose your soft skin will not be incommoded by the feel of straw. She spoke truth without knowing it. I took it all in silence, and slunk to my roosting place, where I fell asleep like a man, the excess of whose labours are his ready passport to the blessings of repose. End of Book 1, Chapter 13.